Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Good day, everybody. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. Today, our guest, Eric Wu from Gainful. Eric is the co-founder and COO of Gainful, and we'll talk about Gainful a little bit later on, and you can look for the details below. And a quirky thing about Eric, and then we'll get back to it, I'm sure, he is avid consumer of food shows. So tell me in the pre-show, this was hilarious. Maybe you go. So Eric, what's your favorite food show?
I can't say I have a favorite, but my roommate has got me binging diners, drive-ins, and dives, Guy Fieri. not what you'd expect to hear from a nutrition startup founder, right?
I love, because you look at those diners and you go, that looks completely unhealthy, but man, oh man, I'll buy two of those, right? Some of these plates, you go, oh my goodness gracious. So thank you very much, Eric, for being on the show. Eric and I have known each other from a client, a shared client of ours. So thank you for being on the show. Much appreciated.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me.
And like all the other shows, what is the title of today's show, Eric?
The title I've chosen is Why Personalization Matters.
So let's roll right into it. Why does it matter?
Sounds good. For me, I think personalization matters for three different reasons. One of them is a consumer reason. One of them is a business reason. And one of them is very personal. Now, without trying to talk your ear off, I'll tell you a little bit about why we at Gainful believe personalization really matters. It's an imperative, honestly, from a consumer perspective. So for us, our product is personalized sports nutrition. Our first three flagship products are personalized protein powder, personalized hydration, and personalized pre-workout. Mm-hmm. And we actually have three more products launching at the end of this month that I really wish I could tell you about.
So excited.
But I can't. There's my plug. I'll try not to do too many sales on this podcast. But for us, personalization means you take a quiz on our website, gainful.com, 5 minutes, super simple. We ask you questions about your fitness goals, your body type, your dietary restrictions. And then we have a proprietary algorithm that calculates the perfect blend of ingredients to help you reach your goals. So really, our personalization is all about taking things that you've told us about yourself and reflecting them in the products that we give to you. And that's really important because elite athletes at the highest level everywhere get personalized everything, whether it's nutrition, whether it's personalized sleep coaching, whether it's personalized fitness regimens, whether it's personalized strength and conditioning. These are all things that are par for the course for anybody who is trying to reach the next level of performance. And that to date has been only accessible to the world's best athletes. And what we're doing is we're making it accessible for anybody. We think that everybody can be an athlete. You don't actually have to be on a professional team, but everybody has that athlete's mind of making progress every day, getting in the zone, hitting your stride, and becoming a better person tomorrow than you were today. And we think that by giving everyone access to personalized nutrition, it's a fantastic first step in helping everyone achieve their goals. And so for us, when we talk about personalization in the product, when we talk about personalization for our customers, we think that the world and the people in the world deserve to have personalized nutrition in order to reach their goals. And we're just making it accessible, easier, and a little bit more fun for everybody to access that type of high-level personalized nutrition. And of course, we're starting with sports nutrition, but I really think that the sky's the limit when it comes to nutrition. There's a lot of stuff outside sports nutrition.
Agreed.
Sports nutrition just happens to be a space that sorely needs personalization. And one last thing I'll say about personalization as it relates to the customer is we also want to make sure that we never give people an experience that makes them feel alienated, that makes them feel lost. And that's traditionally how a lot of sports nutrition has been because it's so macho, it's so over the top.
Yeah, I agree.
You walk into a GNC and it's like floor to ceiling industrial sized tubs of stuff that's called Nitrotech and Muscle Farm. And for us, we want to cut through all that. We want to give you exactly what you need, nothing that you don't. And we want to give you clear, honest guidance throughout. And so we give every single customer free one-on-one complimentary access to their very own registered dietitian. And these are certified nutritionists who are with you anytime you want, when you're a Gainful subscriber, to give you any nutrition, dietetic, or fitness advice.
Having been and still being a CrossFitter, PRs are PRs, right? Personal records are personal records. So the person that starts and comes in, and I'm terribly sorry if I'm going to use some analogies here, but somebody who comes in at 350 pounds who says, I want to change something, right? And you have those stories and go, lose 1 pound, lose 2 pounds. Wow, you lifted 5 pounds, and today you're lifting 7.5 pounds. That's a PR. And so, and what I liked about that community as well is that regardless of how small the win is, a win is a win. And so I think that you are absolutely on track to saying, okay, well, and this is what you need now, but you might need that a little bit later. And I think that the evolution of what you need, not what you needed when you were 350 pounds is not what you're going to need when you're 205 pounds. So I think that personalization is key, because as human beings, and not just human beings, but the world is always evolving. So that is okay. So I've used to, I don't know, GNC Muscle 101 with, the dude that is
sweaty,
so
shirtless
ripped.
bodybuilder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because that's really what you want to eat out of.
And yeah, exactly. And how many guys do you know that are exactly like that? Or how many girls do you know that fit that bill? Like, come on. So,
yeah.
So tell me, tell me your story. So, how did you come up? Let's walk us through to when you hit Gainful, okay? And then we'll talk about the Gainful story after.
Okay, sounds good. So much of the Gainful story is actually tied up in everything that happened to me pre-Gainful. It's pretty intricately intertwined with my childhood and how I grew up. So I grew up in Southern California. I was actually born in Toronto. I'm a Canadian. I'm a Canadian passport holder. Yeah. So I can waltz right across the border if I wanted to.
Back and forth, Canada, US, Canada, US.
Exactly. Green card US, passport Canada. I was born in Toronto, but I can only claim a passport. I don't have very many other allegiances because I left when I was just a baby, 1 year old, and moved to Southern California. My parents both found jobs in healthcare in Southern California, and we moved to a little sleepy town called Thousand Oaks, north of Los Angeles. And that's where I grew up. I grew up pretty typical Californian, meaning outdoors all the time. My playground was the driveway, and I was constantly biking and hiking and running. And my big thing growing up was soccer. I always played soccer. It was a huge part of my life. Soccer fanatic. Went to high school, played soccer all throughout high school. And that's actually where I met my co-founder, Jahaan.
Okay.
He's our CTO, and we've known each other for over a decade now, which is pretty crazy to think about, given that, we're both 27 years old. And we met each other playing soccer together. We were actually co-captains of our high school soccer team and became fast friends. He went off to Berkeley. I went off to Georgetown. We both continued playing soccer, and all throughout this, we had friends who would go to the gym. We had friends who would go to practice, and afterward, what do? They chug their nasty muscle milk protein shake. They grab it at the 7-Eleven and they drink it not because they know what they're doing, not because they understand even the first thing about sports nutrition or muscle recovery. They do it because they see their favorite athletes, the Cristiano Ronaldo's, the LeBron James on TV, having their muscle milk or Herbalife sponsorship. And you just feel like that's what real athletes do, right? It's just following the crowd. And
behavioral-based marketing. Oh, awesome, right?
Yep. Yeah, you're putting it into much more eloquent words than I am. We of course continue seeing this in college, right? We both continue playing soccer, and we had friends who were trying now things like pre-workouts and creatine and hydration supplements, and more people who were kind of like the Reddit forum expert. Or you want to try supplements, so what do? You don't ask any licensed professional. You just go to your biggest, beefiest friend and say, hey, what are you doing? Right. And it was so, in a word, obnoxious to me, to Jahaan. We were soccer players. We weren't gym rats, but we were plenty active. And even then it felt like something that made no sense for us to take. Just everything from the branding to the opaque ingredients list with a bunch of things that sound like nuclear waste, to the fact that we had to go to a GNC or a vitamin shop to buy these products. And when you get there, you're constantly being upsold by some, teenager store clerk who's no older than us. Everything felt outdated, felt backward. The experience was just nothing that I wanted to do. And this would be the point where Gainful comes in.
Okay.
So should we dive into it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep the story going. So, because I'm going to ask you, I'm going to say, okay, so what then? So before we jump into Gainful, what is, if you can recall, the moment that goes, shit, we should do this? Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
There was actually, the remarkable thing is, there was actually a product before there was a business, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
The business didn't come about until Jahaan spurred me to consider it in an entirely new light as a business. I originally, when I had decided to get my own nutrition and my own fitness on track, like I mentioned, was walking to the local GNC. I even remember it. It was on Wisconsin Ave in Georgetown, and was just struck by how overwhelming, how just, for lack of a better word, impersonal.
Yeah, very impersonal commercial. Yeah, impersonal is very good. Yeah.
The experience felt. And so I went back to my dingy apartment basement in college, and I bought up a bunch of raw ingredients on Amazon, like whey protein isolates and tapioca maltodextrin, just things I didn't know anything about, and was doing internet research and literally mixing up protein powder in these Tupperware containers in my basement, like Breaking Bad. All my roommates thought I was totally nuts.
That's awesome.
And I eventually found something that worked for me. It fit my dietary restrictions. For the first time in my life, I knew why there were certain ingredients in the supplements. And it was because I had done the research and I figured out what I thought was right for me. And I told Jahaan about this. And this is like the genesis of the business, right? Like the product, personalized protein powder, already existed. I didn't call it that. It was just in me, right?
Yeah.
And I told Jahaan, hey, I've got this like little side project. It's kind of fun. And unbeknownst to me, Jahaan had really immersed himself in the startup scene at Berkeley. He had already actually worked on a personalized 3D printed vitamins company. And this was my high school buddy, but also the smartest guy that I've ever met and probably will ever meet. He was studying full ride chemical engineering and computer science at Berkeley. And when I told him about this weird little Tupperware protein powder experiment I had going on in my basement, he said, listen, man, this is really cool. Did you know personalized nutrition is the future? This is where the world is going, and you need to pursue this as a real business, not just this little weird side project you've got going on as a senior at Georgetown. And when I heard that from my smartest friend, I said, okay, I should probably take that to heart. And one thing led to another, and we ended up co-founding Gainful. And next thing you know, I had flown back from DC to California, and Jahaan had begun with me at Y Combinator, big startup accelerator out in Silicon Valley. And the rest, I guess people will call it history.
That is so what in the relationship, before you sign a dotted line, you said, okay, because it's a big step, right? So I'm assuming your parents in healthcare, well, growing in Southern California is a little bit more entrepreneurial than most, a good thing that your parents moved from Toronto so that was a good, smart choice.
Although Toronto's on the up and up when it comes to venture ecosystem and everything, right?
Yeah. So I'm sure that your parents must have said, okay, so we've paid for a large education. We're paying for a lot. They're probably Gen X people like me and said, hey, what's wrong with a good job? And you said, no, mom, no, dad, I think this is a great idea. How did you sell it?
Yeah, I got really good grades in college, so that probably helped a little bit. My parents are definitely, so my parents are both from Beijing.
Mm.
They came over here from college and for graduate school. And when they finished that, they couldn't find jobs in the US, which is why we ended up in Canada. There's a much more lenient visa policy in Canada. And that's why I was born in Toronto. I said they both work in healthcare. Really, my mom works in insurance and my dad works at a big biotech company, but they were both kind of more on the like database management side of things. So it wasn't really like I had any interest in health and wellness from a young age. Really, again, it just was born of personal need, this way that we found ourselves doing Gainful. But to answer your question, my parents were remarkably open-minded about it, while despite they are the typical Chinese parents who always want a little bit more stability and a little bit more kind of climbing the social ladder via hard work and nose to the grindstone at the same place for 20 years type folks. I think they both, unbeknownst to me until recently, have both been super entrepreneurial people. They really have this entrepreneurial itch to start their own business. My mom is always talking about how she wants to open her own little cafe or restaurant. My dad has, ever since he retired, especially been bouncing wacky business ideas off of me. But these are two people who they gave their lives to giant companies so that I could have a shot at doing what I'm doing today. And that's something that I think is, one, the greatest sacrifice, and I cannot be more appreciative for everything that they've done for me. But also, two, entrepreneurial in its own way, right? Like coming to a new country and literally not being able to stay and having to, not that there's anything wrong with Canada, but having to move to Canada because they couldn't stay. It's the biggest venture of all, right? It's your life's adventure, and you're taking risks in the same way that I get to take these much more comfortable risks as an entrepreneur compared to the things that they had to do. So in a way, I guess that's the sort of full circle story about how and why they've been so supportive of me doing this thing that, quite frankly, I don't think they still fully understand what it means to have a venture-backed startup.
No, they don't. Yeah. Your mom just wants to talk to people and make coffee and pastries for other people so that she can enjoy cooking and enjoy serving coffees, right? Where your dad
If I started a coffee shop, my mom would have definitely understood the business model a lot faster.
And your dad's just going, "Oh, I got time on my side. All these ideas that I've had over time. Can I do this? Can we do this? Can we do that?"
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. And there's something that needs to be said about immigration. And I think that is the gratefulness that you have towards your parents who have left a lot to live with risk of coming here.
Yep.
That sense of gratitude. Everybody who lives in North America, even, First Nations who've come across the Bering Sea and all that good stuff, you have to realize that either you're first, second, third, fourth generation North American, you come from an immigrant family that somebody down the line put a lot of risk into showing up. And so I believe that in North America, we tend to forget that it's important to respect and understand. I don't want to say a whole tradition, but to understand that there's a lineage to why I'm here, right? So I think that's very good. And I'm at your age, and terribly sorry. There's a lot of young people who dream about what you're doing right now. And there's a lot of people who think that because they give their title entrepreneur or CEO, that they actually are. So for those who are listening, who have a kid, or if you're young and you're an entrepreneur, Eric has earned right. He's not just calling himself that. He's gone 4 years, and I've seen his work ethic because I've worked with him before. There's a lot of hard work that comes with being an entrepreneur. So don't think it's just cool. Because I'm sure there's a few times, Eric, in 4 years, even you're young, you're like, screw this, I'm done.
Much less than you would expect, actually.
Oh, really?
I think I was built for this. I love it. I love every day of it. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else. But I mean, something else that I just want to acknowledge is how immensely privileged I am to be in this position, to be able to have my parents help me through college, to have my parents be supportive of what I'm doing, and to be able to cover my expenses for the first, year and a half of Gainful when we weren't really paying ourselves a salary. I had savings, and there's a ton of people who would give anything to have that sort of safety net that I've had in order to be an entrepreneur. And I don't take that lightly, which is why, honestly, like you mentioned, I bust my butt and I make every day as best as I can.
That's awesome. Your mom making you a typical Asian family, probably always rice, always vegetables.
She ingrained in me some really good stuff.
Good.
Hopefully someday she realizes I'm doing my best to repay it.
Awesome. So let's get back to personalization.
Yeah.
So great idea, great momentum. I think that is super. I've been on your website. We've got everything going. So you go through and you ask questions. I think you ask questions at the right pace, because too many questions gets you down to user adoption, right? So you have to look at user adoption as well, saying, okay, well, what is too long? What's too short? How much information can somebody take the time to get me to where I want to be able to have a transaction between them? And so how much time did you spend when you're building your model to think through the entire process? Did you do process mapping? Did you launch first? Like, what was your thought behind building that business model?
We come from the YC school of thought, which is launch quickly, fail quickly, iterate, launch again.
So please explain to the listener what YC is.
Yeah, of course. YC is Y Combinator. It's a big startup accelerator out in Silicon Valley. They are traditionally a very tech software, consumer software, enterprise software focused accelerator, but more and more recently, they've been taking on consumer brands like Gainful. And I think they've recognized a couple of big trends, namely things like personalization, direct to consumer, nutrition. And for that reason, we were one of the first few companies to get an investment from Y Combinator in the space of personalization, in the space of nutrition, in the space of CPG. And we did that program we were in the winter 18 batch. So that was the first couple of months after we'd graduated from college. And that was an incredible place for us to grow and learn and be surrounded by really like the Hollywood of Silicon Valley, right? It's all the big names there. The other folks who have gone through Y Combinator are Reddit, Dropbox, Stripe, really big names. And we were able to learn from a lot of those founders, Airbnb's founders. Like it was a great learning experience and a fantastic experience for a first time entrepreneur. But that was a bit of a tangent. The YC school of thought when it comes to launching is to launch quickly. Don't wait to launch. I think it might be a little more applicable to a software product than to a CPG product, but in our case, we still took it to heart. And we launched the product when we were literally making it ourselves in a kitchen facility that we had rented in San Mateo. And we were by day trying to build the website, run marketing, set up the business, talk to investors. And by night we were putting on our sanitary equipment, white coats, and literally going and mixing up batches. It's commissary kitchen. So, I mean, for us, that was the only way we could do it, right? Like we didn't have a whole lot of money. We didn't have the resource. We didn't even have really a brand, and we just had to scrap and learn every single thing on our own. And so for me, like a big learning that I've had over the course of the last couple of years running Gainful is that as a founder, you just need to constantly reinvent yourself. In the early days, I was food scientist formulator in chief. And then pretty soon I was the fundraiser in chief. And then pretty soon after that, I was the board manager in chief, right? And it just keeps changing and keeps evolving. And today I'm really thankful and blessed to be working on kind of full circle where I originally came from, which is working on new products, creating new products that I think really deserve to live in the world, figuring out what the future of personalization means for nutrition, for sports nutrition, and for our customers. And that's a place that I'm really, really happy in right now.
How many people is in Gainful right now?
We have our 29th starting on Monday.
Sweet. One of the clients that I still work with, and Eric and I worked with, we went from 5 to 6 to 12 to 48 in
Yeah. Wow.
In a matter of 18 months, not even 18 months is quite wild. I mean, when you've got explosive growth, what a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize is that when you start building your business, you leverage people. And that's your job, is to find the right talent and leverage their experience. Like you said, you can't be this in chief, that in chief, and all of this in chief for a long period of time. You can do it in short sprints. Like, okay, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that. But to keep consistency and momentum, to be able to have singularity of purpose and not change, direction continuously, you need to really beef up the team. So you're leveraging, once you've got people, then you can leverage money. But ultimately, until you get to a place of, I'll say, corporation, where you're not in that startup explosive growth, you go, okay, we've hit kind of a good pace. Here's where we are. Then you can start leveraging money and all that stuff. But before that, you're leveraging people. And that's what a lot of people don't understand as founders, right? Like you, at a certain time, you go, okay, I'm young, I'm energetic. When you start hitting 50 at my age, 18-hour days are good for a year during COVID, but after a while, you're like, okay, screw this. Like, I want to go fishing. So tell us, when you say, okay, so personalization for the customer. Now you said personalization for the business.
The business. Yeah. Yeah. Personalization for the business is really just another side of the same coin for the customer. But if you were explaining it to your investors, your VCs, or even a potential acquirer, the rationales for personalization become a little bit different. Although the outcome is, of course, a better customer experience, which is by far the most important thing. From a business perspective, personalization is very interesting because it's been done for hair care. It's been done for skin care. It's been done for pet, it's been done for meal kits, but nobody's really nailed it. Nobody's really given it a good try in the realm of sports nutrition. And honestly, you could even make an argument nobody's really properly done it for nutrition in general.
In general, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for us, it's really, really, it's a point of pride to be the first mover in personalized sports nutrition, because it's also, like I mentioned, a category that needs it so badly, right? Sure, personalized skincare, personalized hair care, personalized fashion, like these are all important for self-esteem. They're huge markets. I get it. But personalized sports nutrition is a place where there's just been a dearth of activity and such a huge need, because there are so many brands. It's an incredibly fragmented space. There's relatively little brand loyalty. There's a ton of honestly dangerous ingredients that, if consumed in the wrong way, at the wrong time, in the wrong dosages, can actually set you back instead of helping you reach your goals. And it's also a category that's so intimate. It's so intimate because you're actually putting it in your body. There's not that many things that you put in your body. And if you're going to put something in your body, you should be sure as hell that it's going to help you. And that's something that, I can talk about this a little bit more in the section about what personalization means to me, but really you ought to be considering everything that you're putting in your body, because that's what's going to help you reach your goals. That's what's going to potentially set you back from your goals if you do it improperly, more than any other personalization realm, right? And so from a business perspective, for the venture capitalists and investors who have been so supportive of us since day one, the people on our cap table, it's obvious. It's obvious that this needs to exist in the world, and it's, for them, sort of a thing that they smack their heads that it hasn't been done before us, right?
I agree, right?
Right. So when we came along and we had this vision for personalized sports nutrition, we were going to do it direct consumer, subscription, e-commerce to start, but then eventually in many other channels, international, retail, marketplace. It just made so much sense to them. It was one of those things where we were able to open a lot of people's eyes, the fact that, like, how could this not already exist in the world? And how can we make it the perfect customer experience? And For VCs, that vision is, of course, really, really important because it also means that there are big multinational corporations who could potentially acquire us someday for a really good multiple because we have strong margins, strong recurring revenue, a strong, loyal, fanatic customer base. And it's also, in our case, a system. All of our products work together synergistically. We have personalized protein powder, hydration, pre-workout. Yeah.
This is where I go, oh, what a good man. What a good man. Systemization. Oh, I love it.
I told you this was the business part of the conversation. And that obviously for us is really exciting because it means that we have a suite of products where our platform is not collagen, right? Our platform is not hydration. Our platform is personalization. And that is why we can take something like personalized protein powder, and this is a bit reductive, but copy paste that business model and do it for hydration and see over 50% of our customers now including hydration in their carts. That's why we can do it.
You can personalize condoms if you wanted to. Like
won't be our fourth product, but yes, you're right, Martin.
But there's so many ways when you think of a human being, instead of thinking of the product, think of the human being. So how can I support the human being? It amazes me that people complain about these COVID vaccines and they go, you're putting this in my body. And the latest one was this lady putting a key on her body and saying, oh, the magnetic injections.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness. When you look at what people consume on a day-to-day basis, you're eating Twinkies, you're drinking Coca-Cola. I mean, when I grew up, when I played rugby pretty much all my life, I was very competitive and went up the competitive ladder very quickly. One of the Welsh coach that I had, old school coach, smoked cigarettes and played rugby, played hard. He's like, you drink 2 cans of Coke after each game to replenish your sugars and get your energy back up. And now this is back in the 1980s, right? So think about this. I'm playing rugby 6 days a week. So that's 12 cans of Coke per week.
Yeah.
You think about the addiction. So I stopped playing rugby and now Coke is, and no disrespect to Coke, no disrespect to the culture that's creating behind Coke. It took me years to get off and I still am fighting my Coke addiction. Like when I hear or smell a Coke can open, my mouth waters. It's crazy, right? But that's
your Pavlov's dog.
Exactly. So ding ding. Oh, what's that food? But my point being that what I like about the new generation is that they're understanding that key concept of what you put in your mouth is what you become. And the second component of it is if you want to change the world, change your consumer habits. So, and that's what the big corps, the Nestle's are seeing. So by Eric doing what you're doing, there's nothing wrong in wanting to be acquired because you're going to change the world through the participation that you've got. If you can touch more people with personalized or having healthy habits, is where we want to put the world today. Is this contributing to a better planet by having healthier and better people? Yes, it does. Is it a better planet where we're not commercializing everything and we're taking a little bit more time and everybody wants everything fast. So you're saying, take the time to answer the goddamn questionnaire so that you can be personalized and have a bigger impact. But that's mentality of everything quick. Back then, so, Abraham Lincoln, sharpened the axe for 5 hours so that you can cut the tree down in 1 hour. So I think what you're doing is fabulous, how you're approaching it, because then it becomes also a sense of ownership, a sense of participation. They care about me. Every human being has 3. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Do I matter? And that's a behavioral need that you need, that I need, that everybody needs in different kind of spectrum. So with that personalization, also for everything else that you do you see me? Do you hear me? Do I matter? And that's what you're doing. And that's exactly, you're filling a Pavlov need of a human being of having that emotional recognition.
Yeah. You could give the pitch for me.
Need a sales guy?
You're exactly right. And a question that we always get from marketers and startup people, anybody who's worked on UX or at a tech company, especially e-commerce, they always ask, why do you do the quiz? Doesn't that reduce conversion rate if you are making people jump through hoops? I think the mantra that's been drilled into every e-commerce or growth marketer to date has been minimize the number of clicks, the number of screens, the number of steps it takes from someone to get from the homepage of your website to giving you their credit card number. Do everything you humanly can to reduce that amount of time and that amount of friction, and you will have a much better business. And for us, sure, we want to make the checkout experience and the number of clicks it takes to get to a purchase as seamless and as delightful as possible. But at the same time, people are happy to take our quiz because at the end of the day, that's the product. The product is personalized. You need to tell us about yourself in order for us to give you something that we know is going to be better for you than the generic that you pull off the shelf. And people understand that. The consumer is brilliant. Our customers are brilliant. They know that what they're doing up front, the time and the investment that they have in taking a few minutes out of their day to give us a little bit more information about themselves is going to pay them back in spades. It's going to benefit them more than anyone at the end. And for that reason, we're never going to do away with the quiz. That's our differentiator. That's what makes us special is personalization.
When my brother has been selling carpets, just carpets, for the better part of his life.
I love a good carpet.
I was going to say, that's all industrial carpets, 36 inches by 36 inches, 1 square meter, wherever you live in this world. By the way, the US is the only one that still uses imperial versus the rest of the world. I'm just saying.
It bugs me too, because we collaborate with folks. We don't have to get it down that rabbit hole.
By the way, do you sell internationally? Does your protein make it all the way around the world?
Not yet. I think Canada would be a logical second place for us to begin selling, but we haven't quite made the leap yet.
Gotcha. Okay. Soon to be. Okay.
Soon.
TBD. So he's been selling carpets, and so he sells one thing and the first thing that he says is spin sell, right? What's the situation? Implication. Start with a question. Start with a question. And that's what you're doing. You're asking questions. If you're selling a car, what are you looking for? What do you want to do? Do you want to go off-roading? Do you want to go pick up girls? What do you want to do with your car? Do you have a family? Do you have 5 kids? Well, if you got 5 kids, a Mustang's not going to do it for you.
Yep.
So, right. So here is a caravan, right? So you want to go off-roading. Well, this Fiesta is not going to go. You're going to go with an F-150. Sorry, I'm stuck on Ford for some reason. But anyways, so I think that part of the customer journey that, again, if you're asking me, the ultimate goal that a company wants is to have an interaction with their clientele, with their consumers. What is the constant participation or dialogue that you have with your consumer? And you're starting out by asking a question. What's wrong with that? That's the best way to start. Hey, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? What activities? I've taken the quiz. I know you don't ship to Canada because I don't get it. But I took the quiz a few times just to see if you can still send to Canada. But anyways, with that being said, that's where the relationship starts. When you meet somebody and when you truly care and when you say, how are you? That's a question. You don't just say it to say it. You should say it and listen. And I think good for you for Gainful for actually listening and not just trying to sell. And I think that is going to connect you with people who are going to be brand loyalists for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And really, we've barely scratched the surface of personalization. There's so much more that we can do and so much more really exciting work for me to do on thinking about what the future of personalization means, not only for Gainful, but for nutrition as a whole, right? There's also a really interesting way for us to think about the next couple of years of Gainful, how we're going to close the feedback loop. Because right now we have registered dietitians who continue on advising all of our customers as they go through their own personal fitness and nutrition journeys. But nowadays, 40% of our customers are Apple Watch users. There are so many people who are tracking their own fitness and their own biomarkers in ways that didn't exist even like 2 or 3 years ago.
Agreed.
And in the next 5 years, 10 years max, everyone is going to have way more access, visibility, and interest in their own biometrics over time than we've ever seen humans have in the history of human existence. And for me, what's super exciting is that Gainful, for every single one of our customers, bar none, is their first experience with personalized nutrition. Our customers are not biohackers. They're not nerds who have spent their lives reading about their own bio. They're normal people who are just active and care about putting something better in their own bodies. And as those people learn and grow and personalized nutrition really comes to the fore, we're going to be there throughout. We're going to be providing personalized nutrition products, sports nutrition to start again. But pretty soon, I wouldn't be surprised if we're living in a world where Gainful can be every single thing that you eat in a day that's not whole food. And we'll know, given the rise of fitness trackers, health apps, and availability of biometric data, we'll know with a degree of statistical significance that Gainful is making your life demonstrably happier, healthier, better. And that's super exciting to me.
There's so I've recently, as you grow older, you become intolerant to certain foods. So dairy intolerance has become a very big thing in my life. So you're like, okay, I can't have this one. And then all of a sudden you have pea protein. Well, it depends on what kind of pea you have. So now you're going, okay, well, let me shop around. Well, I like this ingredient, but I don't like this ingredient, right? I want this or that. I consume greens. Spirulina, if I don't take it in the right part of the day, gives me a massive headache. So if I don't take it on an empty stomach. So just think about greens, phyto greens, where you can say, here's your list. What do you do? And then you can concoct whatever is best. Do you have any allergies to it? Right. My wife is mostly vegan. I'm mostly vegetarian. My daughter is full on carnivore, and my boy just eats burgers and cucumbers. So
at least he's got the cucumbers in there.
He'll have cucumbers, tomatoes, vegetables, everything, but he's not very big on meat except for burgers. So, so you try to spin that 1,000 ways. But anyways, my point being that if you have to customize anything that's not whole foods, that can be applicable for families as well. So, hey, hold on a second. Let me go to Gainful, and I'm going to go, this is for me. This is for Tracy. This is for Ariel. This is for Gavin. And then we all sit together. One place to purchase, one place that the purchases, but also personalizes. I mean, oh my goodness, the places that you can go with this. Very supportive. And I think that the packaging also, that's a big thing for me is, so I ride my motorcycle quite frequently. So I have to make little packets of what I want to bring with me. Yeah. So if I can one of the reasons why I went with, what's the one from Tim Ferriss? Phyto greens or sports greens? I forget what it is.
Athletic greens?
Athletic greens. Thank you very much from New Zealand. Yeah. They have individual pouches. Well, that's not the one that I usually buy, but so I take that one and bring it with me because when I'm riding my motorcycle, I can just pour it in water and off I go. Yep. So same thing, right? So you think about the active person who's hiking, biking. The method in which they purchase to consume is also critical in the personalization as well. So where you can offer saying, oh, you want a 5-gallon jug, you want a 1-gallon jug, or do you want individual little packets, right? As well. So I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. It's so exciting. I mean,
personalization of nutrition is important, but also customization to fit somebody's lifestyle is super important too. We have many different flavors that you can mix and match your flavors and have a different flavor every day. We want to make sure that the cadence of your subscription is entirely to your liking. Like they're super, super important thing. And obviously lead to a much better customer experience beyond just the results from the personalization of the nutrition itself. What motorcycle do you ride, Martin?
I ride a Triumph Tiger 900. It's
nice. I've always wanted a Triumph. I think they just aesthetically, I've never ridden one, but aesthetically they look fantastic. I just had a commuter CBR, Honda CBR back in San Francisco. And when I moved to New York, I promised myself I would upgrade to a Triumph or a Ducati. And I got here and I realized we're just not the place for a motorcycle.
You're going to die, man.
It's effectively just like a trophy to have parking on the street because everything's so easy to get around here.
So you know what? Put the line in the sand and saying, when we achieve this, regardless of where you're living, you get yourself your Tiger, your Triumph. You let me know because I'll go shopping with you, man. I'll go shopping. You go, hey, Martin, hey, come to New York. I need to buy a motorcycle. I'll say, I'll be there in, hold on. So 1 hour to get to the airport, take that flight there. I'll be there in 9 hours.
I'll let you know what our target is. I'll let you know what Gainful's target revenue is before I buy myself a Triumph.
The engine on it, for me, the performance of the motorcycle is important, but the aesthetics as well. So when you look at, I mean, Japanese motorcycles, man, you can, it's the AK-47 of motorcycles. You can do anything to those bikes and they just are just nonstop. They just keep going, right? So
yeah,
especially
that was exactly my experience. Yeah.
Personalized motorcycles.
Maybe.
There you go. Well, when it's time, when Gainful's got enough momentum, then you and I will go see Triumph and we'll say, okay, time to put this business model applicable to motorcycles.
I can't wait.
All right. So tell me about why personalization is so important to your life.
I've really already touched on this, I think, in my lead up when I was talking about personalization for our customers, personalization for the business, for our investors, for potential acquirers. For me, it's pretty simple. Personalization is about getting people to care a little bit more about what they're putting in their bodies. Mm-hmm. Again, like I mentioned, nutrition, the food that you eat, the supplements that you take, it is one of the most intimate things I can think of that people interact with in their daily lives. Mm-hmm. More than the clothes that you wear, more than the shampoo that you use, more than the lotion that you put on your face. It is literally determining what's going on inside your body, your health, how you feel day to day. Paying more attention to what you're putting in your body also means thinking about the provenance mm-hmm. of the ingredients that you're putting in your body, thinking about the environmental impact of the things that you're putting in your body. And for us with Gainful, we're trying to accomplish all of that. Mm-hmm. And for me, yes, of course, my goal is to make Gainful a big, successful company that's worthy of an acquisition mm-hmm. that makes a life-changing amount of money for everybody involved. But at the end of the day, I would also be really happy if Gainful, in our own small but hopefully big way, we're able to get people to think more critically about what they're putting in their bodies and to take their own health and wellness a little more seriously, right? And for me, if we can accomplish even a part of that for a part of the world, that's a pretty big success.
I'll ask you two tough questions.
All right.
What is the biggest kind of customer feedback that you've had that was really touching to you? Have you had a customer feedback where you've said, Gainful has changed my life?
We get that all the time because, again, like I mentioned, what you eat and what you put in your mouth is so intimate, right? And one story that we had recently was actually a customer who had tongue cancer, a person who had to get a part of their tongue removed, and they had a really difficult time eating anything. And so really so much of their nutrition was coming from supplements and from a straw. Yeah. And they had a really hard time choking down any other product beside Gainful. They had some specific requirements for their own diets. Obviously they're making embarking on a pretty major stage of recuperation and recovery in their lives. And Gainful, while this is not the primary use case, ended up being one of the bright spots in their day. And not every customer has a story that's as traumatic and dramatic mm-hmm. and uplifting as this person's. But I think the through line between all of our customers is that Gainful can be what you need it for, right? We have a team of dietitians who are here to serve. We have a science advisory board that includes some of the world's most renowned experts on performance nutrition. And when you are even just like a weekend warrior or a dad chasing around after your daughter in the park, or you're a pretty avid weightlifter, there's something for you. And for this customer, it was something that was particularly special, particularly touching, particularly important. But for everyone, it can be that too, even if you don't come with that same sort of story, with that same sort of recovery.
Wow, that's cool. I've never heard of tongue cancer before. That's wow. That is so cool. I mean, for me, what people forget about protein is that I've come to realize that I consume and eat too much of everything. So Tracy and I went on a journey in COVID time, and we said every day we pick one thing that leaves our house. So we pick something, and then we either give it away, gift it away, sell it, or we throw it in the recycling bin.
Yeah.
So I've opted the same situation to saying, what is it that is optimal for me to live? Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy eating a good meal once in a while, but for 6 days out of 7, it is, what does my body really need? Not want, really need.
Yep.
And I'm a busy guy. I work big days. And then when I'm done working, sit down with my family and I have dinner, which is the most important thing, is having dinner together. And that's, real food, whole food. But the rest of the day, I do intermittent fasting for most of my day. But when I stop my fasting, the first thing that goes into my body is proteins and greens, because I need to keep working, because that's how I'm wired. I just enjoy business, and I help a lot of businesses. So for me to be able to be mindfully engaged, I can't eat a big lunch. Now, don't get me wrong. We went fishing with my buddies and we went and had steak, and we regretted it all. I am so thirsty. Oh my goodness gracious. And we had a few extra drinks and salty fries with that. And I was like, that was the stupidest thing I've ever done.
A lot of people, that's their daily. That's their everyday. That's their
I know,
go-to.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Right. Yeah. Having lived in Asia, I appreciate how food is consumed, right? So mostly vegetables, a little bit of carbs, a little bit of meat. And I find that is a healthy way of eating. But anyways, all to say that it doesn't, I think that nutrition mindset of how you've put in your body, there's ways to do it that can be applied to not just sports but like you said, I'm a busy dad. I'm a single father with 2 kids. I'm a single mom with 3 kids. I'd rather you spend the money on that brings you nutritional value than, doing something else. But anyways, that's I think that's a key component. The second question is really, what has been the hardest hurdle or the biggest barrier that you've had for Gainful?
One thing that I found to be particularly demoralizing early on, until I realized and figured out a great strategy for coping with it, was always feeling like I was coming in at a disadvantage and feeling like an outsider looking in constantly, feeling really a sense of imposter syndrome, which I think is probably something that you hear all the time from entrepreneurs. It's even at the highest level, the highest functioning business leaders feel like, oh, I don't belong here. I don't deserve this. And I've got a target on my back. Why should I be the one to be running this company? Why should I have outside success in this world? I've always been really a person who's quite confident in myself, and starting a business, especially as a first-time entrepreneur, I was 21 when I first started thinking about Gainful. It was something that was foreign to me to hear from so many VCs, from accelerator programs, even from advisors and mentors and everybody in the startup ecosystem, about how difficult it was, the type of business that we were trying to build, how being inexperienced would not be a help for us. And really every rejection that you get from a VC in the early days, it stings. You don't really understand fully, even if they do give you feedback, why they're not writing a check when you have something that you're so passionate about and you think deserves to exist in this world. Is needs to exist in this world. And what I think I realized after many rejections and what I guess a lot of people would consider seminal failures was, one, everyone feels like this. Everyone feels like an imposter, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And that is why the best entrepreneurs are the ones who get knocked down and jump right back up.
Mm-hmm.
That was one realization, which is comforting, I guess, to know that you're not the only one. Even if you are a 21-year-old startup founder and everybody around you is either Silicon Valley royalty or all your competitors are better funded and have flashier investors and flashier founders than your company does. Which, by the way, many of those much flashier folks have since come and gone. Gainful has endured. But the other realization I had was that for all these rejections, especially when it comes to VC, that's part of the business model. They're looking for a specific thing, and they have a couple of big themes that they're chasing down every year. They only have so many checks that they can write. And it's not that they don't believe in your vision. It's not that your vision can't be true. It's just that they have a mandate from their own LPs in their fund, their partners, to explore certain things that they believe deserve to exist in the world too. And it's all about finding the partners that you really think, or that you know, align with your values and what you know has to exist in the world. You will find someone out there who believes just as much as you do about what you think needs to exist in the world. And for all the rejections, there's a reason. And it may not have worked out anyways because they don't believe that the same thing deserves to be in the world as urgently as you do. And so I guess to anybody out there who's raising money, raising capital from VC for the first time, or considering starting a business, just know that all of the failures, all of the rejections are not a reflection of your personal ambition or your personal ability to will something into existence. It's just like matchmaking, honestly. It's finding the right people at the right time who believe in the same things as you. Same goes for hiring incredible talent. Same goes for finding a co-founder. All these things are, to a degree, serendipitous, and all it takes is just knocking on the door until it knocks down.
And that's the thing that, sometimes I have a hard time with these quotes: work hard as an entrepreneur, work hard. And if you grit out, it has nothing to do with grit or hard work. It has everything to do with consistency, because the timing is important, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that you make the best Brussels sprouts in all of New York. And I'm a guy that comes in with a lot of money and I want to go to a restaurant, and I go, oh, this place is known for their Brussels sprouts. I don't like Brussels sprouts.
Yeah,
that's the end of the conversation.
Exactly.
It
could be the best in the world. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't like Brussels sprouts. I don't want to spend money on something I don't like. So it's as simple as that. And it's not about working harder. Oh, I got to work harder. I got to work harder. No, just show consistency.
Yeah.
Just somebody at some time, the timing will be right and it will happen. Right. Some people go, oh, wow, Eric is so lucky. He started as I want to be like Eric. The timing of it was earlier on in his life. If Eric starts another business, he might not be as lucky. He might go for a very long time with his second venture and is going to say, well, this is taking a lot more time than Gainful. Right. Yeah. It's nothing about, you had the right mindset, you had the right skills, you had the right idea, and you put that forth like every other entrepreneur, and somebody bit into it at the right moment. So I dislike when they see young entrepreneurs and they go, oh, well, that kid's so lucky. Pardon my French. Fuck you. He worked as hard as you did. He just happened to fall on gold faster than you did. That's as simple as that. He had a great idea. You had a great idea. He's worked hard. You worked hard. His idea got picked up by somebody before yours did. It's duh. So I just want to shoot down this concept of, oh, people from California, the young entrepreneurs, oh, you're so lucky. And no. You are lucky because you position yourself in a place where you had a very smart partner and said, hey, let's go to YC, and then, everything from there, but you still put a lot of time and energy into it. So last question.
Sure.
What is the one piece of reference that dictates who you are. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be a person. It could be a podcast. It can be, what's the one thing that you go, I always revert back to this?
That's interesting. And you're thinking content.
So for me, I'll give you an example. First things first, one of the habits of the 7 habits of most highly effective people. First things first is the thing that has struck me to prioritizing. And it's a lesson that I learned when I left the military, when an old sergeant major said, hey, there's 3 things that are important in life. Your physical fitness and mental health. Your family is number 2. And number 3 is every fucking thing else.
Yeah. I love that.
Right. And so you're like, okay. And then at the time, all this, when I left the military, there's all this self-help, and Stephen Covey fell on my lap, and I go, oh, first things first, one of the 7 habits. So anyways, that's what dictates who I am and how I think in business. What about you?
So this might be a bit of an unconventional answer. It's not a piece of content. It's not a book or a podcast or some sort of mantra or teaching. I find myself, oddly enough, thinking a lot about my parents, and in particular my mom. And this is maybe a good way to bring this full circle, but she was the type of person who deferred her entrepreneurial dreams and worked at a big company for the better part of 3 decades so that I could do what I'm doing today. And that's something that I think is never, ever going to stop being incredibly motivating for me.
Wow.
And it's not necessarily about, oh, I have to make this successful so I can buy my mom a nice car and a fancy house. It's really about understanding the immense, again, privilege that I have to be doing what I'm doing and to be comfortable doing it. And for me, that's why I feel like Energizer Bunny every day is just so much fun. It's so exciting to be doing what I'm doing because I even have the opportunity to do it. And I think that's something that is always going to be a pretty big touch point for me.
You are absolutely right. In full circle.
Martin, I also want to say, talking about all this stuff about age and experience, earlier in the podcast, I said that me and my co-founder are both 27. Don't know why I said that. What a brain fart. We're both 26.
Dude, how old was I? I think I was 37. I couldn't remember how old I was. I couldn't remember. I was like, how old am I?
I'm a little young. I'm a little young for that, I feel.
It's all right. I got married at the age of 21 and was a father by the age of 23. Things were a bit different back then, right? So,
Gainful's still my baby. That's all I've got going on.
Yeah, that's right. No dogs, no cats, no fish.
Nothing. Just this big personalized sports nutrition baby.
That needs a lot of attention.
Precisely. Yeah.
Oh, well, fabulous. Thank you so very much, Eric, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Martin.
Yeah, for sure. So with that said, Eric, we're going to put all of your contact details, LinkedIn and all that good stuff.
Perfect.
In the bottom. So thank you very much for being on the show. It was great having you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, Martin. Good catching up.
Thank you very much. So with that said, my name is Martin Hunter. I'm the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. And like all shows, I tend to forget, but this time I won't. Like, subscribe, and whatever my social media marketing team tells me to do to say. All right, folks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.